Hey everybody, welcome to Rotary Club's Thursday Noontime Snack Program. As you know, the Thursday program is more casual than the Tuesday programs. Lasts only about 30 minutes, but always filled with high quality, interesting content featuring either Rotary members or people connected to our organization. Today, we welcome the community research team at the Urban Ecology Center. Next Thursday, tune in at noon to hear from our fellow Rotarian, Chris Henricks, about her photography over the past few years. You can submit your questions for today via the chat button, or usually we've just been unmuting ourselves and asking the questions live. As someone who loves the Urban Ecology Center and spends a lot of time in and around the center grounds, and enjoys all the programs and during the pandemic, the virtual offerings on social media, it's my pleasure to introduce the Urban Ecology Center team. We have Maggie Steinhauer, Research and Community Science Coordinator. She coordinates and facilitates wildlife monitoring projects. Maggie started working at UEC as an intern in 2018. She's a graduate of UW-Milwaukee, where she majored in conservation and environmental sciences and minored in biology. Then we have Ethan Bott. He's a GIS. I looked that up. Tell me if I'm wrong, Ethan. Geographic Information Systems and Field Data Coordinator. He manages and curates the wildlife data, assists with wildlife projects, and works with volunteers, along with many other responsibilities. He's worked on and off at the UEC for a total of about 5 years, beginning in high school. Ethan majored in hydrology and minored in GIS at UW-Stevens Point. And finally, we have Tim Vargo, Manager of Research and Community Science. He's part of a team that provides collaborative spaces for research and learning between professional and community scientists. Tim, who earned his degree in biological sciences at Macalester College and his master's in biological sciences from Purdue University, has worked at the Urban Ecology Center for 19 years. So Tim, I'll turn it over to you.
You're muted, Tim.
I need to unmute myself. Thank you, Mary, and good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with an organization that has played a huge role in the growth and success of the Urban Ecology Center. So thank you all for your past and continued support. I also noticed that my Rufus King classmate and Rotarian Wendell Willis was a past presenter for this program. So I'll just say it's a complete honor to be presenting in the same venue as Wendell, who's doing such an amazing work with kids in our community. And I'm gonna start sharing my screen here. All right. And with apologies, I'm just going to bring up this PowerPoint and we'll get started. All right. So the Community Science Department at the Urban Ecology Center, we actually addressed this group, not for this venue, but recently. And since then, our core mission hasn't changed much. We're still trying to connect people in urban, we're providing collaborative spaces for research. Excuse me, I'm having a little bit of glitches here on my side. The goal of our department is to provide collaborative spaces for research between community scientists and professional scientists. And with this, that hasn't really much changed. And so if you look at some of the pictures on here, as I mentioned, we support these collaborative spaces. And within this umbrella, we study and monitor urban wildlife. So that includes bats and birds and small mammals and snakes, insects, and even people. And we also provide classes and workshops and field trips. We take people, our participants locally, and we also take people around the world. We've taken participants to places like Iceland and Cuba and Costa Rica. And incidentally, we was just so pleasantly surprised that Michelle Hawkins was the person that we're working with. She's been such a rock star community scientist for the center. And yeah, particularly in our bird banding program. And so thank you, Michelle. It was really fun to work with you. So just like the rest of the world, a little under a year ago, our department and our organization had to undertake some major shifts, especially considering that the mission of the Urban Ecology Center is to connect people in cities to nature and to each other. And at least it was really no longer safe to connect people to each other, at least in person anymore. And so within just a couple of weeks of the stay-at-home order, the Urban Ecology Center launched its UEC in My Backyard website, which was recently highlighted here, I understand, by my supervisor and fellow Rotarian Beth Heller. And this is an umbrella platform for virtual resources that are available on our website. And if you haven't looked at the site, I encourage you to do that. I also want to put in a quick plug for the Urban Ecology podcast, which is now available wherever you get your podcasts. So we'd love it if you subscribed and rated us, take a listen. But the UEC in My Backyard was the platform that allowed the research team at least to continue programming during the pandemic. And so the first program we launched was the Backyard Naturalist series. Every Friday morning at 9 a.m., anyone can log in for free programs that highlight those organisms that are common in your backyard. Probably ones you don't pay much attention to, some you might not even like very much. But when you take a closer look at some of these really common backyard species, you find that they have some really cool stories to tell. And for those of you, these are the spaces that we are closest to, that are right outside our doors. And if you're in an apartment or a high rise, you still have your patios or the green landscaping around your building or even your local parks. And since people could no longer visit the Urban Ecology Center branches, we kind of looked at it as, what if we looked at all of our backyards as mini urban ecology centers, as mini field stations? So you don't have to come to the green spaces that we work on to learn more and appreciate. You have all of this magic in your backyard. So every Friday morning, we featured a different species or topic that's related to your backyard. And I'll just take you on a very quick tour of 10 of the 40 or so episodes that we've produced since the pandemic started. The first was called Desperate House Sparrows. Then we moved on to 50 Shades of Gray Squirrel. We had an episode on the Virginia possum called The Faking Dead. And take my word for it, you really do want opossums in your neighborhoods. We presented the Hunger Flames Catching Fireflies. And we looked at a symbiotic relationship between your backyard trees and the microscopic organisms in the soil, the fungi and the bacteria. And that was an episode called The Hills Have Mycorrhizae. Then season 2, we started with Full Yellow Jacket. And maybe folks left this episode, I don't know, not hating yellow jackets any less than they did previously, but maybe they had a slightly greater appreciation, an explanation for why we look at these little critters as flying jerks when we're trying to have our late summer picnics. And we had an episode called Raiders of the Lost Archaea, getting in the microscopic level. We got into some classic comedies like Fur Crazy right around Christmas time, looking at the Christmas tree, the natural and human history. And then in Thanksgiving, we had a turkey episode a goose episode called Every Which Way But Goose. And one of my personal favorites was As Gourd as It Gets. So again, the Backyard Naturalist programs are free and open to anyone on Zoom on Friday mornings. You can turn it on in the background. I'd love to see you at a future episode. There's a really fun community that meets and tells stories around these very common species. So we're going to end the program today with a short snippet from one of these episodes, but now I'm going to pass the vote on to my colleagues in the research department, Ethan Bott, who will introduce you to a program that's also a tool to study the wildlife in your backyard. And then Maggie Steinhauer will talk about the non-virtual work that we were still able to do last field season. So take it away, Ethan.
Great. You can probably stop sharing there, Tim. Cool. So as Tim was kind of talking about, we've been doing a lot of virtual learning where we have lectures almost nearly every single Friday. And to pair that learning we've implemented or started a new program called Yardversity. And this is a virtual program where we're looking at what is in people's backyards and using a free iPhone and Android app called iNaturalist, which basically helps document, you take photos of living organisms in your backyard or in your yard, and you upload it into an international database where it gets ID to the species or genus level. And it's then used in scientific research at large. So if you think about it, if you think about all the land in cities, most of it is private land, right? Homeowners, apartments, stuff like that. And we don't really know what's going on in the backyard, what is in there, right? In national parks or in national forests or other areas, we have research projects. They're looking at the wolves, they're looking at different interactions and species in those areas. But in cities, we really don't know what is even there at a scientific level. So we started this project where we use iNaturalist, and we encourage people to go into their backyards once a month, ideally whenever they can, but we theme our months based off of the phenology of that month. And phenology means the changes of the season. So in fall, when the leaves turn color, that's a phenology event that happens with plants and with animals. And we're trying to look at the changes within the season in people's backyards. And so we have a different theme every month. We've had a dragonfly theme in the middle of summer. We've had bird migration themes, and we encourage people to go outside and take photos. Last month, we had one on animal tracks. With all the snow we've had, you may be seeing a lot of animal tracks in your backyard or in the parks around you. I'm gonna share my screen here and kind of show you some of the data that we have collected. All right, so this is just iNaturalist. For those of you that don't know, all you need is an iNaturalist account. You then take a picture of what you saw, and then you record when you saw it, where you saw it, and the evidence is that photo of what you saw. And it really becomes this really solid observation that can be used for science, which is really cool. So, you know, you walk outside and you see something really cool. Instead of just having that memory for you, you can now submit that and it becomes a legitimate observation, which I think is the coolest part about iNaturalist. All right, so this is the Yardversity project. We are looking at observation. Right now, we have most of our people participating are from the Milwaukee area, but we have some people from Colorado, Maine, and some of those other areas. And you can see, you basically just take a photo of something that you observe, any living organism. It doesn't actually have to be living organism. As you can see, there's a track here of the eastern cottontail in the top left corner. You can also take pictures of scat. And you can see that's green research grade, which means it's been verified by the community. And that could be you helping verify these sightings. And so you can see evidence of our winter tracking theme. And then let's see, we had a winter tree talk as well. There was a fur crazy lecture. So again, we paired the lectures with the data that we're collecting. And so we encourage people to take pictures of their trees. And again, we're just trying to see what is in people's backyards and what isn't even. And hopefully the idea is that this goes nationally, that people all around the country are part of this, submitting data from their backyards. And then maybe even writing some research about what is in your backyard and what is not in your backyard. So we're taking a little bit of break right now here in winter because there's not too much life and phenology happening, but spring is right around the corner. So I encourage you all to join a Yardversity project. We'll be starting up again in April around Earth Day. And I really encourage you to join and learn about what is in your backyard and help us learn as well. I think I am now ready to pass that on. If there aren't any questions, I'll pass that over to my colleague, Maggie.
Great, thanks, Ethan. Let me pull up my screen here. How do I make it full screen? Ugh.
If you go to slideshow up top, oh, there you go.
Okay, success. So I'll talk a little bit about what we were able to do in person this summer. So we did a lot of virtual content, but we were able to luckily still get out in the field with new protocols and limited capacity for on-site staff. But we were able to find some really exciting things. So I'd like to start off, so every summer we hire interns to help us out with our field work. And we had this idea this summer for a science communication intern to help share stories and writing and photos with what we're doing in the field with the community. And that position was new to our department, and it actually turned out to be an incredible lucky timing too, as we were moving so virtual, to have support from our wonderful intern, Elizabeth Gamillo. She helped create a lot of crafting videos, as you can see one of them here, Firefly String Lights, for those Yardversity events to help get families involved. She also took wonderful photos, wrote blogs, and she was a great teammate out in the field with me. On the left, you can see her catching her first green darner dragonfly, and that was one of her goals for the summer. So that was a really exciting day, and that was definitely a highlight from the summer. And up top, you can see there's another little damselfly that she actually took that photo. So in, I guess, normal times, as we hear a lot that term, we're out in the field with people and looking up close at things. Here we're on a dragonfly survey. And although things looked pretty different this summer, we were really excited to find some really cool species. So for instance, just a couple of them here I'll mention. Out of 12 actually exciting species of odonates, so dragonflies or damselflies, in different ways of excitement, there were 3 in particular that I'd like to highlight. We had an azure bluet, and this was the 3rd year in a row we found this damselfly at our Menominee Valley location, and according to the Wisconsin Odonata Survey, it is a most wanted species. So it's exciting. The more data that we're able to find on this, the more we're able to piece together which habitats it likes, what its range is like, and that kind of thing. Another exciting find was the elusive clubtail in the middle. One of our educators at Riverside Park, Matt Flower, actually found this dragonfly and sent me pictures, and I forwarded on the pictures to the Wisconsin Dragonfly Society, and it turns out that this dragonfly is actually the first ever record for Milwaukee County. It's not a rare species, but it is fairly uncommon in the state, and it's more prevalent on the western end of the state. So to have that show up at Riverside Park was definitely a highlight. We also found lyre-tipped spreadwings, which is another type of damselfly. And that was the first time we've found one at any UEC branch. And it was actually the first Milwaukee County record in about 6 years. So to be able to be out in the field still and find these really cool things in such a weird time was really cool. Another thing I'd like to point out, which maybe is not quite as much of a highlight, but more just an interesting fact, or an interesting thing that we noticed, was we run snake coverboard surveys at the UEC, where we're looking for particularly the Butler's garter snake, We'll also find, as you can see on the left here, we'll find the DeKay's brown snake too. But our main focus is on the Butler's garter snake, and that's because they're a species of special concern in the state. And we want to see kind of how their population is doing, especially in relation to our green spaces that we manage. And they also have a very small range in Wisconsin too, which is just essentially directly surrounding the Milwaukee County area, which is interesting for a snake because it's very urban. So we go out in the field and we look under boards. The snakes are drawn to the heat of the board in the summer, and you'll find them in the evenings. And what we found this year was actually really interesting. And again, not quite a highlight, but more of a highlight in terms of highlighting the importance of this long-term research so that we can see patterns and trends. That top gray line is our count of species, so number of individuals within the Butler's species. And as you can see, there are some dips and valleys. In 2017, we had a pretty big dip. And in 2020, we actually had a larger dip. We noticed that we did not find any Butler's garter snakes under our boards. We did see a couple individuals on their own in the park, but none of them were under our boards. So that's something just exciting in a way for us to be able to piece this together, see how this upcoming summer compares, and see if we can piece together any patterns for that. So I guess it was just really nice to be able to get out in the field still with modifications, of course, and to be able to have such exciting things happening still. And just a couple other cool finds of species. I am a dragonfly nerd, so I like to focus on the dragonflies. But we also found a rusty-patched bumblebee for the second year, which is a federally endangered species. And then more bat activity, which was terrific. And then one of our community scientists who runs our beetle surveys actually found a lizard beetle, which is the first record of that species in Wisconsin. And that was confirmed by Bug Guide. So I think that's it for me, but it was a terrific summer in the amount of the capacity that we were able to do field work. So.
And I know we moved to time for questions now as we wrap this up. I do want to just say, though, that the great work that Maggie and Ethan do on properties, they can do for you. So, Ethan has these tools that'll allow you to study your backyard. In fact, you can just knowing which species are there is important. But we also worked with the Harbor District. We've worked with the Menominee Valley Partners. We've worked with Door County Land Trust. And one of the things that our team can do is kind of do an environmental audit of your property and kind of, say what you have there and what's good and what's not good. Particularly if you're doing restoration work, it's really fun to see like, oh yeah, I planted all these native plants and here's some really cool examples on my property or on my company's property of what, what that did for the soil, for the invertebrates, for the birds, for the mammals. And so if you're interested in partnering with us on that, that's something we really enjoy doing. We do bio blitzes, but yeah, we can work either on your backyard or a larger space. So I was gonna show a quick clip of one of the backyard naturalists that was looking at pumpkins, because we're not only doing wildlife, but sometimes we're doing pumpkins because it was October, and so we kind of got into the natural history of pumpkins, and that was one of my favorites. So you can take a look at that. But one spoiler is that a pumpkin is actually a berry, and a strawberry is not a berry. So maybe that's a teaser for you to kind of go and look at that show and find out why. But it's 12:25, and it leaves us with just 5 minutes for questions. And thank you all for listening.
I have a question for you guys. During the pandemic, was it more people and less creatures, or less people and more creatures? Or neither?
Ethan, you want to mention what you do with people?
Yeah. So as Tim was saying, we kind of monitor people in the way, and we have a system and series of park counters that use infrared, so it kind of collects your heat signature as you walk by. And we have a system between Washington Park, Riverside Park, and Menominee Valley, kind of keeping track of the people going by. And we started this new system about a little over a year ago, and we saw, there was pretty steady-ish use during the winter and early spring. But once the stay-at-home order came into effect and things like that, we saw what I would say is massive increases in park use. As at that time, the only thing that people were doing was going outside. And so we had significant increases in the number of people using the park around that late March, April, May, June period. And obviously it's springtime, so people are going to go outside more and more. So it's hard to tell for sure whether the stay-at-home order really got people outside, but it was a very large increase in the number of people going outside. So yes, you have more people outside looking and observing things, and there's going to be a higher number of people reporting things of that nature. So it's hard to tell if the animals came out more, or it was a mix of both, of more humans being out and more animals being out. So yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I kind of have a suggestion. I love what you guys are doing. I'm new to town. I came from Seattle. I'm a little uncomfortable with all this backyard talk. In Seattle, we had huge trees shading out our backyard, so we just put things in front. And the neighbors were a little curious at first, but after about 10 years, there was no grass, and it was all crops and cover. I think, we should be proud of our habitat and our crops and put it in front. I'm in the same situation here now. I got in a historic district. Our building is in the back corner. All my land's in the front. So I called the city, and the historic people said, well, it used to be you had to be approved for an English garden or some such drivel. But now it's okay. You can plant whatever you want. So I think you guys should get out there and encourage people. Get it in front, for crying out loud. Be proud you're covering your crops.
Kent, I'm so glad you said that, because one of the first things that we had to do was kind of define what is a backyard. And in my mind, growing up here, my backyard is everything. It's front, back,
stop
side.
saying backyard.
Well, that's what we grew up with. And then there are others that you look at that give different. There was somebody from out west that had a totally different name for it that was more like I'm drawing a blank. But that was one of the things we had to determine: what is a backyard? Why, and for the specific reasons that you mentioned, what is a backyard? But that's what we always grew up calling it here, maybe in the Midwest.
Well, stop, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
We'll have to consider what we can do to rename that series.
It's all image,
Yep.
Yeah.
Because some people, if they do something in their front yard, that's going to mean something different to their neighbors, or to if there are any guidelines in place, in your community. And it brings up a whole layer of interesting conversations.
Well,
even you bringing this up right now.
You change people one plant at a time, and after a while, people are thinking grass is a weed and dandelions are a crop.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm curious about the beaver that, well, I've seen the beaver once, but all the trees that are along the river path by the Urban Ecology Center, does that beaver have a dam somewhere, or what does it do with the trees?
Yeah, we haven't. We have yet to catch it on camera.
I have it on camera.
You do? Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah,
took a video. I took a video of that beaver when I was running and said that it was racing me, and I won. But
oh my gosh, I would love to see that.
yeah, I'll see if I can find it and send it to you.
Yeah, that would be terrific. Yeah, we see so much evidence of beaver chew and fresh beaver chew. It seems like it was really picking up in the fall, and then it kind of slowed down a bit, but it seems like it may be picking up again. It's also very prevalent at the Menominee Valley location too, along the river. We don't have an identified dam, and they are bank beavers, so they kind of go more into underneath the banks of the river. But I, at least as a part of our team, I don't think we've identified an exact location of that. But that would be wonderful to have some more evidence on that. I don't know, Tim or Ethan, do you have any?
Any dam built on the Milwaukee River would get blown out. And so they're smart enough to know that. So the ones along the Milwaukee River, at least as far south, are building their burrows into the bank.
Okay.
And you see a big increase of beaver activity in late fall as they're preparing for winter. And so they're stripping all the small trees, and they're actually stowing that away to eat through winter. So that's why late fall, early winter, you see a lot of trees down, a lot of stripping occurring.
You learn to look for different signs of beaver lodging based on what type of river it is. So yeah, the Milwaukee River, you're going to be looking for signs along the river bank because there's no way they're damming that huge river. But if you're in kind of a wetland with more of a, up and down flow and things like that, then those traditional lodges and dams will start to come out. But
Okay.
When do you guys think you'll start doing volunteer stuff with volunteers again?
We want you back, Michelle. We're actually starting some limited volunteer outdoor work in groups of 8 or less right now. So there's still some bird monitoring, and we have our own kind of playbook and team that's monitoring the safety and monitoring the community, and we're itching to go, and we want to do it safely. Michelle is part of our bird banding team, and with that operation, we're in close quarters. We're all looking at birds. We have to kind of blow under their feathers to see what's on their skin, and so there's just so much chances for a virus to move in that community. So unfortunately, Michelle's specialty will probably be one of the last volunteer opportunities we bring back, but we're starting to do it. And I mean, kind of the rest of the world, we're hoping to get back to some degree of what we had before. But then we've also had people that have moved away from the center, and there's right now there's people in 4 or 5 states that tune in regularly on Friday morning, and they didn't just find us on the web. They're people that had connections with Milwaukee, that had connections with the Ecology Center, that want to continue those connections with that particular community. And so they said, when the pandemic is over, we hope you still continue some of this virtual stuff because it allows me, and wherever I am, to remain connected with you. So, but soon, Michelle, soon, maybe this fall, we'll start scaling back.
Awesome.
I don't know if we have time to talk about, but this spring we'll be relaunching or having our second annual backyard birding blitz, which is a birding kind of festival event from your own backyard in your own neighborhood. And it's kind of a mini challenge where we challenge everybody to get the largest cumulative number of species. And last spring in May, so May of 2020, we had hundreds of people participate virtually, and we had people from all around the world participate. We had people from Europe, and then all over the United States participate. So it was really a beautiful thing, being able to bring people together from around the world. And it was really great for beginners to participate in their first birding experience. So look out for more details for this May for the backyard birding blitz.
Do you think you guys have a greater impact with kids through the virtual things that you put on, since kids were stuck at home and some not going to school or learning virtually? Do you think that those programs really filled a niche for families?
You know, so if you go to the UEC in my backyard, and apologies for the term backyard, but the website, there's sections for kids, there's section for families, there's sections for adults. So the research team primarily works with adults. We have done some really great projects where we partner with our community programs team or environmental education team. So those departments have been focusing much more on children. And our team is focusing a little more on the adult and family side of things. But that's, you know, as we've all made that shift, that team has done a fabulous job working really closely with the teachers, finding out what the teachers need, providing virtual experiences, classes, materials, and so I just have so much respect for that aspect of the Ecology Center and those departments as well.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no further questions, we can go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for joining us, Tim, Ethan, and Maggie. It's a great program.
Thank you so much for having us. Definitely check out the website and contact us if you have any questions or thoughts about how you want to be involved, and we'd love to work with you all again.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Right.